tonight because I wanted to get into a song. I started playing it out at the park this year because a lot of you know that in like 1992, when my life flipped around, I lost my armor. I just did. I became so open and so sensitive. And I don't apologize for that anymore. I think a lot of people sometimes confuse open and sensitive with weak and stupid. But I'm not weak and I'm not stupid. But I am open and I'm sensitive. I just lost my armor. And so I would tell sometimes 300 or 400 people, you know, my closest friends, or a few thousand people, that this was a very, very difficult year for my dad. And so sometimes this song would land a certain way or whatever. But I wanted to tell this story because it's about my father. And like I said, 2012 has been really rough for him this year, mostly in health ways. And but I guess it kind of ties into it because Sid is here, and when Sid brought the Beatles to America, I was told about that event by 2 kids in my neighborhood that were like the men in the neighborhood. When I was a kid, little tiny kid, these guys were like men. They were like in 4th grade. No, and when you're a kid, you know, 4th grade, holy smokes. They were like, it was Billy Lee and Gary Fix, and they were the big kids. And they were the ones that told me about the Beatles. And then, but then a few years later, and we all played in the same neighborhood, you know. And but then years later, at Billy Lee's house, they had 7 kids in their family. Okay, so their backyard was completely dirt, and that's where we played. Everybody played at the Lees, and on his father was like a plumber or something, and on the side of the house there was a little cellarway. It wasn't like even steps; it was just a well, a cement well with a cinder block at the bottom. You could step down onto and then walk into these doors, and there was pipes and crap in there. And in the summertime, that would be like our fort. You know, and in the winter, what we do is we would take this steel door off the shed, and we put it over the top of it, and that would be our fort, or that would be our, you know, hideout, whatever it was. One year, now I'm in 4th grade, and they're in 6th grade. So we're down in this thing in the winter. It was a school year, and but we're not playing Army, and we're not, you know, we're not forming a club. They're talking about what they're learning about in school. And what they were learning about in school was sex. I guess back then, 6th grade, they had sex education started in 6th grade. So, but I'm in 4th grade, and I'm a little kid listening to these 2 6th graders talk about what they're learning in school. Now, I got 4 sisters. And I'm sitting there listening to these 2. What did you learn about and they were using this term, the facts of life. What did you learn about the facts of life today? Oh, we learned this and this and that. And I'm just sitting there like this. Because it sounded disgusting. And they're saying, and then the man does this and the woman does. And I'm thinking, this can't be true. This can't be true. This is disgusting. But then, as they were using this term, the facts of life, I remember hearing my mom and dad use that term. So somewhere, I don't know how long this was going on, but somewhere along the way I went, oh my God, this must be true. Oh my God. But here's the thing. We weren't sitting on the swings talking about this, and we weren't sitting on the front stoop talking about this. We were down in this thing with a steel door over the top. And we were whispering. They were whispering, you know, and I was just in shock. So I knew this was big, you know. Now, I don't know, to a little kid, we have no conception of time when we're young. I mean, none, you know. So it might have been a few days, it might have been a week, I don't know. But for a while, I must have been walking around with this big, important information. And my dad noticed, or maybe my mom noticed and told my dad, hey, something's wrong with David. But we also lived in a very small house with 5, there were 5 kids and 2 parents. There's 7 people in this little wooden box. And so to be alone was very rare, But for some reason, my dad and I were alone down this little unfinished cellar, and there was this wooden stairway going down. I remember we were down there at the bottom of the stairs, and he looked down at me and he said, "Hey, buddy, is there something bothering you?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah." I was also like just a pathological liar when I was a kid. But I said, "No." And he said, "You know, sometimes it helps if you just get something off your chest." Now, that was probably the first time I ever heard that expression, get something off your chest, and it must have sounded good because I burst into tears. And I just said, and I knew he wasn't angry, but he was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "I know." And I don't know how he kept from laughing. But he was like, "What do you know?" I said, "I know the facts of life." And he said, "Okay, well, sit down." And he sat me down. There were on the bottom two steps, and I sat down. They were painted gray. I remember. I'm sitting on this wooden step like this. And he sat down next to me, and he put his hand on the back of my neck, and he was rubbing my neck, and I was hysterical, crying. I was like, "I know the facts of life." And he was like, "It's okay. And he calmed me down. And then when I was calm, he tried in his best, Roman Catholic way to explain to a fourth grader what Billy and Lee were talking about, right? And, it still sounded disgusting. It was, and that was coming from my father. And I'm thinking, oh my God, okay, all right, I guess this is too weird. And I remember him saying, "Right now it sounds very strange, but someday you're really gonna love this." And I knew he was lying. There's no way this could ever, what you're describing to me. And he actually got a little scientific and clinical on it. It was really pretty gross. But this is why I tell this story, and why I want to do this next song. He didn't leave it there. My dad's a very complicated guy in a lot of ways, and he doesn't. I've told the story to him, and he doesn't remember this. He doesn't remember telling me this. But we were sitting there, and he explained it as best he could, and then he said to me, he didn't leave it there. He said, "David, can I ask you something?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "But why were you crying?" And I said, "Because I didn't think I was supposed to know." And he said, "David, as long as you live, there is nothing you can know that you're not supposed to know." He told that to a fourth grader. How old are you in fourth grade? 10 years old? There are things that I don't want to know, and there are things that I've accepted, so many things I've accepted that I will never know, but there's nothing I can know that I'm not supposed to know. And I started playing this song out in the park this summer. And if I get through it, it's going to be great. But I told you, I don't have any armor, so we'll just do the song. He cut her in half with a shiny steel saw. He put her all back together, and I was in awe. His rabbits and doves and bandanas appeared. He pulled a quarter right out of my ear. And I turned to my dad. I said, "How'd he do it?" Pop, he just smiled. He said, "There's nothing to it. It's magic, and you don't want to know just how it's done. It would ruin the show. You've just got to believe, 'cause believing is what makes it happen. It it's nothing but magic. Well, I fell in love the first time in 8th grade, and I started shaving the very next day. Just walking her home made me light on my feet, and I promised her things I'm not gonna repeat. And when I asked my dad why girls had that effect, he said, you better ask Mom, I ain't figured that yet. It's magic, and you don't want to know just how they do it. It would ruin the show. You just got to believe, 'cause believing is what makes it happen. It's nothing but magic. Well, the years have been hard, the years have been kind. This year's been rough on that father of mine. Some things you can't change with the wave of your hand, and there are so many things I still don't understand. But when I come here each year to do what I do, there's love and there's healing when I'm singing with you. It's magic. I don't want to know just how you do it. It would ruin the show. You've just got to believe, 'cause believing is what makes it happen. It's nothing but magic, and I don't want to know. It would ruin the show. You just got